5 million people have seen us talk about champagne in the last 30 days. We've had over 10,000 new followers across our new TikTok page and Instagram, and we've had record downloads of our podcast. And it's all around the topic of...
Champagne.
Champagne, baby. And it's funny because last year in December, of course, the infamous video with Olivier Krug, which was...
Never ever drink champagne in a fruit.
Gave us 5 million views and 20,000 new followers. So people love champagne content, and while the going is hot, we are ready to pop some bottles. I'm Angus O'Loughlin, Master Sommelier's friend. Because the Master Sommelier is sitting across from me. Carlos Santos, how are you, sir?
I'm very good. Another exciting episode,
yes.
I'm sure. And at least we have a nice bottle to open today.
Absolutely.
So very exciting. We've been opening some nice bottles, yeah?
We did. The 1988 La Mission Chateau Haut-Brion.
La Mission Brion, yeah.
Brion, not hot.
It's still hot. It's very hot.
Okay, thank you. And of course, I'm infamous for butchering the names of many champagne houses.
Well.
So my apologies to the French in the comments. Carlos, what are we doing today?
So we will talk about my favorite 5 champagne houses, which I've obviously tasted and drank over the years. And if I were to pick top 5, I think this would be it. Of course, there's so many others and everyone will be saying, oh, what about this, what about that? But, gotta pick 5, right?
I know what they are. And number 1 genuinely shocked me. I thought for sure I knew what it would be.
Well, it doesn't look like it would be the best.
I think I'd look a bit more bougier.
What if I told you it starts at $3,000 a bottle?
What?
I've never seen it before.
Never seen or heard of this brand.
And it's a surprise, so stick around for it as we get ready to open up this bottle of champagne. Carlos, you have the honours. Big moves early, everybody. Carlos has picked the burgundy glasses to appreciate this. A big tick of approval from Olivier Krug. All right, so we now have 2 glasses, and I should point out burgundy glasses of champagne in front of us as Carlos, the Master Sommelier, prepares to take us through his top 5. And of course, for retention of audience, we are going to start at number 5.
Well, it is one of the champagnes that we've played with, Agrapart, because Agrapart is a very small house. It is a récolta manipulin, so one of these producers that actually own their own vineyards. They are based in Avis, so one of the villages of Côte de Blanc. So if you look at Champagne, at the Champagne map, obviously starting with Reims, Vallée de la Marne, and then Côte de Blanc, Côte de Cézanne, and then Côte de Bas. So Côte de Blanc is the most important sub-region of Champagne for Chardonnay, and that's where Agrapart is based. And then, of course, they produce several different cuvées, Avisoise, Cuvée Minéral, between others, but it's a very clean, very fresh style of champagne. They use older oak barrels. They peak earlier in the season, so really to keep that freshness, that liveliness in the champagnes. And all of them are pretty much like this, very much a mineral-driven wine, less exposure to oxygen, therefore a much fresher style.
So I can reveal the first This or That we did on champagne, which got a couple of million views, Ayala was a favorite of yours along the journey.
Yeah.
And a lot of people had never heard of Ayala, but I can say it does not make your top 5. Why does Agrapart over Ayala, for your personal preference, make it into your tops?
Because Ayala, although they are somehow similar styles, fresh, it's a more reductive style of champagne overall. Ayala is a much larger producer. Is a négociant manipulin, while Agrapart is a récolta manipulin. So Ayala will buy grapes in to produce the champagnes they make on very small amount, if any, of the wines they make, while Agrapart owns every single vineyard of the champagnes they make. They are similar style, but Agrapart is just that fine precision, really small production, and again, 4 or 5 different cuvées, maybe more that they make these days. But all very pristine. Is a very, very elegant style of champagne. And Chardonnay based. They just only produce Chardonnay, and it's just insanely delicious.
So obviously, if you're listening to this in Europe or watching this in Europe, you do not get the same prices as us. In Australia, we get absolutely lynched with money when we buy imported wines. So that being said, of course, we have a tax on alcohol as well in this country, which is wild, but you can pick up an Agrapart for about $195.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think I saw it for $170. So it is a semi-approachable wine, but once again, an occasion wine.
That's right.
But it's not the one that we're drinking in front of us.
No, it is not. Yeah.
Because number 4 of a Master Sommelier's favorite champagnes is...
It will be Egly-Ouriet. So that's what we're drinking now.
And can we say cheers?
Cheers. Absolutely. Look at this beautiful golden color, very fine bubble. Of course, this is a champagne that it's totally the opposite of Agrapart, for instance. Because Egly-Ouriet, well, first of all, they are located in Reims. So that's the northernmost wine region, Montagne de Reims, to be more precise. And they are based in Ambonnay. But Ambonnay is a Pinot Noir based village in which these guys are based. They also, I think they make about 10 hectares of, they grow 10 hectares of vineyards in the region. And then they also have in Vallée de la Marne, I think about 3 hectares. Vallée de la Marne is mostly Pinot Noir. And that's where they make some of these wines. So it's a very different style. Why? Because Egly-Ouriet is much more exposed to oxygen. So more influence of oak, micro-oxygenation, etc. So the wines are broader, more shouldery, they're richer, they're more powerful, a lot more toasty aromas, but still very, very precise, very low dosage, meaning a very low sugar in these wines. So they lean as in terms of sugar, but shouldery, big in terms of style and taste, if that makes sense.
So I'm an idiot when it comes to wines and champagnes and fortifieds, but one thing I do is sort of my first recognizer when I'm assessing a wine that has bubbles in the glass and is kind of perceptible to be champagne or sparkling is that brioche effect, which I've got here. This beautiful, warm, when you're making bread, that beautiful smell.
Totally.
Which is in this glass.
Yeah.
Why? And I know I haven't tried every sparkling wine in the world, but I've tried a fair few. Why do we not get that in sparkling wines? And why is that so distinctive for champagne?
Yeah. Well, because of the lees aging. So the longer the wine stays on its own lees maturing, because it's so strict how long they have to keep on lees and bottle, etc. And then Cava, there's some good examples as well, because they also have those strict rules. Some Italian sparklings, Langa, Alta Langa, for example, Franciacorta, etc. Those wines have some rules as well. But then Prosecco, for instance, most Prosecco is meant to be drank youthful and fresh and clean and zesty, although there are some
of course, there's always outliers.
That's right. There's the outliers. But typically is a wine to be drank fresh, zesty, with oysters at the beginning of the meal as an aperitif, So that's why.
Well, this is absolutely delicious. I bought this for $255 here in Australia for this bottle, which is specifically which one, Carlos?
So this one is Le Vigne de Bisseuil. Egly-Ouriet produce a wine called Le Vigne de Vrigny in Vallée de la Marne, just south of Ambonnay. So they're right next to each other. This wine spends 48 months on its own lees. So again, that toasty, that biscuity comes from there, that toffee almost aromas. This would have probably about 2 grams of sugar. So, it's still considered
it's definitely not
very dry.
Yeah, very dry wine.
It's a very dry wine. That just gives that zesty, lean, sharp taste, but bold at the same time. Really cool.
Funny story about this is we're recording this on the Thursday before it's released. And I said to Carlos on Tuesday, I think we should do a champagne episode because we planned on recording a different episode, which we still will do, a great episode coming out very, very soon. And Carlos was like, yeah, no worries. And then I got his top 5, found one that we could afford, wanted to get an Agrapart, but because I've had Egly-Ouriet before, couldn't get Agrapart, found an Egly-Ouriet, and I bought it, called them up and I said, on Tuesday, will this be delivered by Thursday? And they're like, we can't guarantee it. So I was like, oh, yeah, okay, well, I'm going to have to, and I paid for shipping at that point. Anyway, I was like, I'm just going to have to come and go and get it. So I had to get off the train, walk a kilometre and go to this wine store and pick it up.
Did they refund you the postage?
No, it didn't refund the postage. I was just like, just whatever, I need it. And I went in there last night and the lady was like, oh, so we've all been wondering, you really needed this bottle by today. Is there something special that's going to be happening?
Right.
And she thought I was like, I need it before, she must have thought I needed it before the long weekend in Melbourne. because she thought I must have been proposing to my partner or something big. And I was like,
during their match,
I
for
just said to her, I was just like, she's like, what's it for? I was like, review? And she's like, it was the weirdest answer I could have possibly given. So apologies to the house if you do watch this.
You probably should have said yes, it's for a proposal. They probably would have offered to you.
They should give me my shipping back.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, Carlos.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised. Everybody is going to be shocked by this, I think, because it's the biggest name in Champagne. Our Master Sommelier's third favorite champagne house is
Krug. Yeah, I would say Krug. I mean, again, the top 3, the top 5, whether it depends on the mood as well. If you wake up on a mood for something fresher, probably it would be one. If you wake up on a mood, or if you're having a big meal, probably a steak, you probably will for a different type of champagne, right?
But this list is like, if you had to pick, like if number 1 is the only champagne you get to drink forever, your choice wouldn't change.
I'll probably keep it, yeah.
Okay.
I'll likely keep it.
So Krug at number 3, the most famous champagne house, in my opinion. Actually, Moet Chandon and Veuve Clicquot are probably more famous or well-known.
Yeah.
But I would say famous champagne houses, not well-known.
I will go even further than just say Krug. I will go to Krug Clos d'Ambonnet.
Yeah, you love that.
It's almost like a distinctive, not almost, it is a distinctive wine that the house produces. Overall, I think Krug may produce about 600,000 bottles a year, which is still fairly small by champagne standards. Since you mentioned Moet de Chauneau, Veuve Clicquot, owned by the same group that produce probably like 40 million bottles or something, and I don't want to say this too out loud because I'll get in trouble, but
it's true.
But Krug Clos d'Ambonnet, it's a very, very special wine. I've had the pleasure of obviously drinking the first vintage in the vineyard, which, by the way, is only 0.68 hectares. That's super tiny in the village of Ambonnet. They produce I think 3,000 bottles of this wine on average. I think 96 was exactly that, 3,000 bottles. It's 100% Pinot Noir. The vineyard is very interesting because we have Olivier Krug in the podcast. In 1991, when he joined Krug, he found this vineyard in Ambonnet that was between a clos since 1766. And then, of course, that became Clos d'Ambonnet, a very special plot. And that's where they make the wine from. So Clos d'Ambonnet.
You've spoken about that bottle before. If people want to deeper dive into your history, there's the Olivier Krug episode. Yeah. We'll put that into the show notes. It's a very special episode and close to our hearts. Definitely one of our favorites, and definitely put our podcast on the map. So it's very important to us. But that bottle as well that you're talking about, in Australia, retails for $4,000.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, because it is that special. Why? Because, again, 3,000 bottles. And if I guess how many wines since 1995 vintage has been produced? Since 1995, only how many vintage you think has been produced of this wine?
Okay, right.
You see what I mean? It's not made every single year.
So that every year that it's good enough
that is
to do
exceptional.
They'll get 3,000. So since 1995... So we're looking at nearly 30 years.
How many vintages do you think you can find in the market?
Okay, so...
And good luck finding
I'm going to
them.
say 20.
5.
5.
So a handful of vintages have been produced of this wine until today. Well, okay, maybe there's something on the books to be released eventually, but 5 vintages that are...
Special wine.
So that's it, yeah.
That's and for the Krug, just the cuvee, the Grand Cuvee, that's $450 in Australia at the moment.
Yes, that's the Grand Cuvee. That's their cheese and butter, if you like. Of course, Clos d'Ambonnet is a much more unique, exceptional, rare, for sure, bottle of wine.
10 times the price. Okay, we've done number 5. We've done 4. We've done 3. For those of you who have seen the Instagram posts of this or that, the Champagne edition, these names will come as no surprise to you. But the big moment for me in this episode is at the end of the finale of this or that Champagne. It was Salos versus Salon.
That's right.
And Carlos, you genuinely, wasn't staged. You could not and would not make a choice. And so we said to the people at the end of it, write your comment below, which do you pick? And since then, a lot of people are like, surely he has a favorite. Like, what is your favorite champagne? Now, of course, it's a personal preference, but it also comes from a Master Sommelier, so there's a huge amount of weight behind it. I've demanded Carlos pick which is his favourite out of Salos and Salon. Coming out at number 2 is...
We got to pick Salos for
which
number 2.
means Salon is number 1. Make
Yes.
sure you stick around in like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. You're going to find out why it's his favourite. But let's give the credit it deserves to a very worthy number 2. So many people commenting. Hundreds of people have
Salos,
commented on our
Salos,
socials
yeah.
saying Salos, Salos, Salos,
Yeah.
Salos, Salos.
I mean, look, it's a much smaller, I wouldn't say much smaller than Salon, but it's definitely smaller than Salon. It's Salos is very, very special because it is also, well, from the village of Avis, so the same as Agrapart in the Côte de Blanc, but they are very different styles. As I said, Agrapart is a much linear style, much fresher, while Salos has a broader, a little bit more shouldery, a little bit bigger style of champagne. Salos, and I will speak particularly of a cuvée called Substance, which is one of the top champagne. It's more like, I wouldn't say a sherry, but wine made from fractional blending, if you like. So it's a multi-vintage, if you like, as well. And that makes it, again, a lot more complex, a lot richer, a lot more toasty and biscuity, a lot of that toffee and mocha. It's a
So
super
when
wine.
it comes to Salos and Salon, and of course, I don't want to take away Salos's time, the difference between Salon and Salos, like you talked to Agrapart being a different style to Egly-Ouriet.
Yeah, Salos, and if we talk Salos Substance, it's really that perpetual blending that I was just talking about, in which it doesn't matter the vintage, it matters the quality of the of the wines that go inside that blend of wines that started in 1986. That makes it so complex, so unique, so much of that toasty coffee mocha aromas and that exposure to oxygen as well. So that's Salos Substance, for instance. And Yeah, and the Salon is different. Salon is the opposite. Is much more, is a fresher style. So it's almost like saying Egly-Ouriet and Agrapart at the second tier, and then the first tier say Salon and Salos. So similar comparison, if you like. I mean, if you were talking in Burgundy, in a Burgundy style, for example, if you were to compare to Burgundy, you would say Coche du Riz, and, for example, Lafon. So again, the same things. One are richer, one are lighter in the same village, basically.
Love it. Well, the entry level of Salos, or which is Jacques Salos, that's right?
Yeah.
$1,200 roughly in Australia. So if you are in France laughing at us, fair enough, and please send us some bottles and just don't say it's wine. Just say it's a video game or something.
But then again, they have different cuvées as well, version original, etc.
And the number 1 Master Sommelier's favorite champagne brand, if you were to get told you're going into a bunker, we have limited supplies, we can only ever have one style of champagne, one house underneath to survive forever, you are picking?
I would pick Salon.
Never had a Salon.
Yeah, it's
of course.
so,
I mean, I know I'm about to reveal the price, but you know.
Yeah, Salon is very special. I mean, it's a very small house. They're based in the village of Menil-sur-Roger. So again, also in the village of Côte de Blanc. So Chardonnay based only. They have a sister house called De la Motte, which produced, by the way, exceptional champagne, but in a much larger scale. Also 100% Chardonnay. And then these 2 brands are owned now by Laurent Perrier, so a much more famous brand and a huge, much huger brand, much more recognizable as well. But Salon being their top wine, it's fantastic. It was created in 1905, and Salon is not produced every single year, so a little bit like the other ones. It's produced in exceptional years. So have a guess, since 1905 in 120 years.
1905, yeah, 120 years, pretty much, 119 years.
Yeah.
How many vintages are coming out?
Have been made, yeah.
So they don't have, so what you're telling me is they don't have a Brut or a Cuvée.
Cuvées.
It's only,
Salon.
but only vintage.
That's right.
120 years.
How many vintages have been made?
Well, I went for a big guess before.
You go for the small one now?
Yeah, I'm going to say 40.
Oh, okay. You're very close. 44.
Wow.
No, it's
Because that's still only 2/3 of production.
Can you imagine?
So, wow.
Yeah.
4, 8, 12. We're looking at like a third every third year.
They produce a wine, which means that obviously it's very rare. Of course, it's very, very expensive, but it's incredibly delicious. I just think that the finesse, the elegance, the minerality, there are wines. I think there are wines in the world that when you taste, you know what you're drinking. I mean, Krug is one, for instance. Coche-Durie, François Ravenot. Those, Didier Dagenot, for example, a totally different wine from
You
the
love
Loire
Didier
Valley.
Dagenot.
I do. I think it's the best Sauvignon Blanc in the world, and I'm not a big fan of Sauvignon Blanc, but when you drink Didier Dagenot, you know you're drinking Didier Dagenot. Yeah, so Salon in 2008 was very special because they've only just released Magnums. So, because the production was so tiny, and they produce about 60,000 bottles on average when they make, which is not the tiniest. I mean, comparison, Krug Clos d'Amonet, which on average 3,000. This is a little bit bigger, but they only released in Magnums 2008. So you won't find a single, bottle. So pretty special from that regard.
Australia, once again, we get absolutely shivved when it comes to cost. To pick up the 2013 Champagne Salon, do you want to have a guess how much? You probably have a pretty good indication.
Salon?
Yeah.
Salon would probably be around the $2,000 mark.
3,800.
3,000.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go back to the restaurant. And
Yeah. Or I found it 1996 at $3,000.
Yes. Well, that would be fantastic.
Well, if someone wants to fund the show.
I've tried I haven't tried, but I was dying to try the bottle. It was a Magnum of 1971 Salon Magnum, and the old label and stuff. We had it at the restaurant, and every opportunity I had to sell it, I never managed.
You couldn't
and
get people over the line.
the bottle probably is still there, but again, it becomes one piece of.
How much was it selling for? A Magnum of 1971 must be 10
I can't
grand.
remember. No, more than that. It was more.
Oh,
It was
20
more.
grand.
Probably, yeah. It's very rare, and
Of course.
don't quote me.
No, because
please,
it
but
might be the only one
can't
of
remember.
that left.
Yeah, oh yeah, it would be. I think from memory, 3 bottles came to the country. 1971 Salon.
Wow, that's very cool.
We had one at the restaurant, and probably still there. I can't remember because obviously I left.
Yeah, been out of the game for a year.
But I've been pushing. I was pushing it, never got
Just
to
so you
open
get to
it.
pop that bottle and try it yourself.
Of course. But then again, as I was saying, it just becomes almost like a piece of art.
Yeah.
That it's in the in the wall,
Of course.
aging.
There it is. Maybe it's still sitting there. We'll have to
Every
check in.
year we have to increase
The
a couple of
price.
$1,000s.
Oh, wow. There it is. A Master Sommelier's top 5 champagnes, Agrapart, Egly-Ouriet, Krug, Selos, and Salon. How was my
Order from,
pronunciation?
Perfect. It was very good.
Thank you
was
very much.
improving? I mean, clearly you've been working on the...
I'm trying my very hardest. Thank you very much for watching this. Hopefully you learned something about some of the top champagne brands in the world. And till the next episode, Carlos, cheers. And cheers to your beautiful daughter, Naomi.
Maybe I should just have another splash for the cheers. Why wouldn't I... I just go back to work selling...
Ferraris. Cheers, Carlos.
Cheers.
To you and your beautiful daughter, Naomi.
And to you and your beautiful kids too.
Nice one. You made it to the end of this YouTube video. Thank you so much for your support. If you haven't subscribed, please consider clicking the button somewhere on the screen. And you saw us tease at the start of this episode, Olivier Krug saying never ever drink champagne out of a flute. Well, if you've got another 15 minutes, that episode is on screen just one click away. And just below it is Carlos's choice for his favorite champagne glassware that isn't, of course, a flute. Until the next episode, see you then. Salud.